Conversations That Count. I'm your host, Mpunga Chipepo-Simukwai. I'm excited that on the podcast this week, we're going to be talking about a very important issue because obviously, as you may be aware, the 10th of September is World Mental Health Day. And we thought at a time like this, we could have with us on the podcast Zelipa Zimba, who is a mental health activist, joining us on the podcast. Zelipa, thank you so much for coming through today.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's a joy to have you to talk about a very important issue that I'm excited about, because excited in the sense that I get a sense that in Zambia right now, there's quite a bit more conversations around the importance of mental health. Now, in kickstarting the conversations, could you just tell us what drew you to mental health activism, and also how did you get started in this field?
Okay, when I first got into activism, I myself had my own story to tell. Mm. I had some financial issues and I had no way out. And I thought suicide was the only way out.
Oh, wow.
I tried committing suicide, but didn't completely go through with it because I'm here today. Oh, wow. But it's not a very small thing. It's deep-rooted in a lot of things which we all need to actually talk about. It starts with our own families before we can say, let's take it to the community. I feel we should begin it in our own families. We shouldn't say he tried to commit suicide because of his school. Mm. He tried to commit suicide because of his friends. I believe it starts with our own families before we take it out there. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, I don't know if you would be comfortable with getting into the details of it. You're sharing your own experience, and it's not something we take for granted, because many people attempt suicide and that's it. But by the grace of God, you're still here, and you're now a mental health activist because you've experienced it in that sense, you know, the challenges of mental health. What would you say honestly drive people to take their lives?
I think
what's the state of mind at the point you're saying I'm ready to take my life right now?
I think because you can't find a way out. That's the biggest thing. You feel there is no way out. This is the only solution. And also I've come to notice people say that a problem shared is a problem solved. In the mental health aspect, I think it is not, because there's an issue of trust here. A lot of us don't want our stories heard by another person. There's certain things we've kept personal and you want to share it because it's bothering you. But once you share it, you start hearing it amongst your friends. Have you noticed how kids bully each other?
Yeah.
Once the bullying starts, it goes on. Everybody starts talking about it. And you start thinking, but why me? Why is it happening to me? What can I do about it? And then you hold back. You just close up. You don't want to talk to anybody. And then you go home and you just hang yourself. Yeah. Which I think isn't good. We need to sensitize our children. And if a person bullies you, find someone to talk to, even if it's not your parent. Find someone you trust, who you feel will be able to talk to you about the issue you're facing.
Yeah. So could you share with us what's a common misconception about mental health that you encounter, particularly in your work as a mental health activist, and how do you address it?
What I've found most of the time, people think mental health, we have a conception saying people in China all go in because they're mad. Some of them, it's not because they're mad. It's because they've got an issue. For example, like ADHD. You're not going crazy, but it's just certain symptoms like, I don't know if you've heard of OCD. I have OCD, but when I explain to somebody that I'm more comfortable sleeping in my own bed than with someone else, somebody would think, but why would you want to sleep alone? You need to sleep with someone. We have this conception that because a child is small, they must sleep with someone. I've grown up, I get uncomfortable when I'm sleeping with someone on my bed. I like my own side of the bed and my own space. Oh, somebody may think, she's being difficult. It's not being difficult. I get claustrophobic. So I've noticed that people are not able to differentiate the madness and you facing certain problems. Because there's sometimes you just wake up, you don't want to talk to anybody. and somebody just starts poking you and telling things, and then you blow up. And then you say, this person, why have they blown up like this? Sometimes you don't know where it started from. That problem maybe came from home. You carried it on into the office. And then people think, oh, she has a mental health problem, or she doesn't know how to deal with herself. So we have to be careful how we treat each other. You don't know what I'm facing at the moment. You don't know what I'm going through. So be careful how you talk to me.
Now, obviously, goal setting is important. I think it's also important for our own mental health because it helps us measure, the level of success and if at all we're making progress in a particular area. How do you stay motivated and focused on your personal goals, of course, and then also during tough times? How do you navigate those times as a mental health activist?
I believe in exercising. Have you noticed how when you exercise even for 30 minutes, how your brain just kickstarts, all the fatigue goes, all the tiredness just goes. I believe if you exercise even for 20 minutes, it can help your mental health. And I've noticed since the COVID era, a lot of people have taken to exercising, which is a good thing. It helps us in all the goal settings, in getting your tasks done, and especially us working ladies. It's not easy where you have to make sure the kids are okay. You have to make sure that the home is fine. It's not easy. But once you've set your goals and have said, I'm going to make sure this is done today, stick by it. Yeah.
And then also, when in your experience of mental health activism, you encounter different people, women and men. How would you say mental health is impacting women and men? Would you say it's more on the women, it's more on the men in terms of the level of the challenge?
I think it's neither here and neither there. That's what I think. Because going to the compound and talk to someone about mental health, they'll tell you, what are you telling me? I need to make sure my kids have eaten. But I think we need to have conversations for both sides, both men and both women. We have this tradition that a man doesn't cry, but men cry. But I think it's about time we started having open conversations about what we go through and how we overcome certain things. We shouldn't say, oh, because I tried to commit suicide, what are people going to think about me? We should be free to tell our stories so that we can save another life.
Yeah. Now, Zelipa, you are pursuing a career in law and then obviously your mental health activism work. How are you balancing the two? And then maybe you could just share with us how your law education is going, how the study is going.
The studies are tough. It's not easy to balance both. So I basically have had to bench my mental health activism on a 20%, and I'm doing my law on an 80% because I need to complete. Because I've told myself the mental health activism will never end. It's an everyday story. But my law has a 4-year period, which comes to an end next year, and hopefully into the next chapter. But for me, mental health is a passion, and I love to read. I collect books. So right now I've got 100 books which I've collected. So they keep missing because people share and they never return. But law is interesting in the sense that I had a bout with the law and I didn't understand it. And I said, if I can understand the background of where this is coming from, I'll be able to take care of myself, which helps also with mental health. If you understand what you're going through, it can help you solve the problem and find someone to trust.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you had an opportunity to speak to your younger self, Zelipa, what would you tell your younger self in the area of mental health activism, in the area of pursuing law?
If I go back 20 years from now, I would have told myself that mental health is every day and not just when you have a problem. We have problems every day. We go through stuff every day. Sometimes we just put stuff in our subconscious and say, when it gets bigger is when I'll sort it out. But I think that is very wrong. No matter how small a problem is, I think deal with it there and then, as opposed to backbenching it to your subconscious. Yeah.
Right. Now, we always talk about, mentors, the importance of having mentors in our lives. Would you point to somebody that you would consider a mentor in your life, whether it's in your professional life or in your personal life, and what sort of impact they have had on your life?
I have one mentor, but I'm not sure they'd want to be mentioned. The person actually checks up on me once every month. They're a professional like myself. They make sure they come and see me no matter how busy I am, or they'll park somewhere and say, I want to see you for 5 minutes. It's important to have somebody who's there for you, who will listen to your story or to your nonsense or to what you have to say, and off they go. It's actually very important to have people like that in your life, because there are certain things you just can't blurt out to anybody, but to that person, you're very open. Yeah. So right now, I'm actually working on an app. It's actually a mental health mentorship app where if somebody is looking for a mentor, they can go on the app and connect with the person they feel will help them out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, as we talk about mental health, Zelipa, we all now know that it's important to unwind. How does unwinding look like for you? What are some of the activities you do that help you unwind, to reboot, or just find yourself in the hustle and bustle of life?
Sometimes I go and sit at a spot with a friend, with a girlfriend, or with a guy friend, and we talk about just things that are happening. Or sometimes I run 5 kilometers, but I'm talking to myself. I'm not even hearing. I block the outside noise and just run for just a good 40 minutes and I'm good to go.
So exercise has been a key aspect for you. Now, what advice would you give to young people that may be interested in combining advocacy with their professional aspirations?
Because mental health happens on a daily basis, I think we should all do mental health. It shouldn't be left to the therapists, shouldn't be left to people who've studied it. Everybody can help each one out there. I think it's for everybody. It's not just for the professionals. Yes.
Now, looking ahead, Zelipa, what are your hopes and aspirations for both your career in law and, of course, your ongoing mental health activism? You have told us that it's somewhat on a break now because you're trying to focus on your law degree. Yeah. But in terms of the future, your hopes and aspirations, what does that look like?
For my passion, as it's mental health, I'd like to have my own app running on both iOS and Android, which I'm currently working on, but slowly. For my law degree, I'm actually interested in lecturing. So that's the route I'm going to take once I complete my law degree.
Okay. Yeah. Now, before we let you go, Zelipa, we all are built by our values. Our values will define the decisions we make, the spaces we are found in. Could you share with us some of your values, just 3 of them, that you think have contributed to get you to where you are today and the person that you are today?
Okay. The first one would be, I love to talk. Wherever I find myself, I love to talk, but I get very uncomfortable when I'm in groups, in large groups. I don't know whether it's a phobia, I don't know. The second one would be, I have a photographic memory. So I believe that we do not just read for the sake of knowledge, but for the sake of imparting it to the next person. My fourth one would be, I think having my kids was one of the best things that has ever happened to me. So family is important.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Zelipa. It's been a joy having you on the Awanachi Conversations. We look forward to having you a little in the future, just for you to give us an update in terms of what you have been up to. But thank you so much for being part of the podcast today.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so I have been talking to Zelipa Zimba. She's a mental health activist, and of course, she's currently pursuing her law degree, just talking about the area of mental health activism that she is involved in. I hope you've learned one or two things from the podcast. Please do make a date with us next time on the Awanachi Conversations. I've been your host, Mpunga Chipepo-Simukwai, saying goodbye and God bless you.